Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to a brand new video. As you can tell from the title and thumbnail, we are going to be, well, and from how I'm dressed as well, we are going to be talking about Doctor Who Series 8, the first series to star Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. Now, this is going to be an interesting review, shall we say, because my opinion on this series has changed. I know, believe it or not, people of the internet really need to realise that just because you say something once, that doesn't mean that is your opinion for the rest of your fucking life. However, some people will never learn that. But anyway, the point is, this series I have said a fair amount of shit about in the past. In fact, if you watch my ranking of the modern series, which I did a couple of years ago, I think it's like the third ranking Doctor Who video that I did, it's quite long as well, I actually put Series 8 stone dead last. And now, I definitely don't think that. However, what I will say is that even though I do think that this series is better than what I initially thought, all the problems that I have highlighted in previous videos, I still stand by. I just now think that the positives are more prevalent to me, whereas before the negatives really outweighed the good stuff in this series. And trust me, those negatives are big fucking negatives. It's not like they've just disappeared and I'm like, well, I can kind of look past that now. No, it's still really fucking flawed in places. So the positives, of course, Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor, I think is a wonderful breath of fresh air to Doctor Who. I clearly like him. The thing is with Capaldi's Doctor, he is the contrast and the Doctor that, in Series 8 at least, I feel that Doctor Who had needed for a long time. The idea behind Colin Baker's Doctor, for example, where he is a bit unstable, a little bit unpredictable, a little bit, you don't actually know where you stand with this guy, I think was a brilliant idea, executed poorly. I feel like the 12th Doctor, they were trying to do that again and do it properly, and I think for the most part, they do kind of get that right. Capaldi's performance is, see, I was about to say all over the place, but I don't mean that in the sense of his performance, like his acting is all over the place, but his Doctor sometimes is a bit all over the place, because you can clearly see that the caring and warm, witty Doctor is still in there, but there's this darker edge to him, and you don't really know which Doctor you're going to get in any given moment. I think Capaldi portrays it perfectly, not just because his face is, you know, very distinguished and quite harsh, not in a horrible way, but as in like it's a very striking, angry face. I think that plays into both aspects actually quite nicely, the warmer, funnier side as well as the more serious side. It is played for laughs and done very well, but when needs be, he's quite angry with it also. He nails the Doctor, not gonna lie, like his performance is amazing. This is probably as well my favourite version of the 12th Doctor. It really annoys me, and we will get to it when we get to Series 9, but it just irritates me that they didn't keep it going. They just had to change him and make him this mad space uncle, whereas in this, I like the fact that he is a bit unpredictable. He is going to do things from time to time that seem a little bit out of character and a little bit off. You see him question himself. I really like this version of the Doctor, not gonna lie. I think there's moments in particular where you do question where the Doctor is at. I mean, obviously he says, is it the beginning of Into the Dalek, where he's like, am I a good man? And then later on in that very episode, he says to someone, oh, quick, take this, when the Dalek things are flying about when they're inside the Dalek. What are they called now? It's an actual medical term, and I should know this, but I don't actually know what it is. Either way, when those Dalek ball things are floating around, he's like, here, quick, take this. And then the guy does, and then instantly he gets killed, and it's like, did he just mean for that guy to die? Did he do that on purpose? Like, did he intentionally do that as like an experiment, or as in like, quick, it's a distraction type thing, like, or was it an accident? It's stuff like that that I think is awesome. I mean, I mentioned that. I think for me, that was the most prevalent one that really stood out, because it's a moment that is actually quite subtle, and I don't think from watching other videos that many people have spoken about it actually. Obviously in Deep Breath you get the did he push him or did he fall argument as well. And there's a few little moments throughout the course of Series 8 where you do wonder, is this guy a good guy now? Because I'm not entirely sure. I mean, obviously the answer is yes, he is still very much the Doctor, but he is going to be a little bit more morally flexible, and I quite like that actually. And I think as well, thinking about it, certain episodes are better than I initially gave credit for. Like when I first watched this series, I think it was in the peak of me just not enjoying Doctor Who. for various different reasons. I mean, I did enjoy the 50th, but that kind of paved over the cracks because I loathed Series 7, so my enjoyment of the programme was at an all-time low, and I think I didn't really give this series a fair crack of the whip. An episode like Deep Breath I think is fantastic. I think it's a great opener, not as strong as the 11th Hour, not as strong as Rose, but it's definitely better than the 10th Doctor's introduction, so there is that. I like the fact that it's an episode as well that isn't set in the modern day. It doesn't introduce us to a Doctor and companion. I mean, obviously Clara's already around, but it's a story that doesn't introduce you to new cast members, as it were, whilst it is the modern day and things that you recognise. I like the fact that we go back to Victorian London. It annoys me that the shit cunts, the whatever gang they are, I don't know who they are, I don't care who they are, I hate them, but the potato, the lizard and the other one, so why they're here, fuck knows, but they're okay in this episode, I guess. There's a few comedic moments between some of them that kind of works, others that just don't work because they're awful, but overall I quite like this as an opening episode. I think there's some really great scenes, and there's different scenes as well, and that sounds really stupid and obvious, but in the sense of these scenes play to this new Doctor's strengths. It gives you a showcase of who this Doctor is going to be. You have got the more witty scenes, such as the scene in the restaurant, but you've also got the darker scenes, such as the did he push him, did he fall type thing. So it was actually really nice to see Capaldi get given a range of different material for him to work with in his opening adventure. Into the Dalek I already mentioned as well, and I think that is a great episode. And the thing is, I'd actually say after Series 1, this is the next great Dalek story. I don't think we had another great Dalek story after Parting of the Ways. Some people are going to say Army of Ghosts and Doomsday and everything, but I think that's crap. I really don't like that. You could argue Stolen Earth, Journey's End, but it's fun for what it is, but I don't really think it's that good, all things considered. And then you get this one, which is like the spiritual successor to Dalek, where it isn't really a Dalek story, but if you look at it as a character piece of the Doctor, it's actually fantastic. Robots of Sherwood I thought was dumb as fuck when I first heard about it, and I thought, how can they even include Robin Hood in this? This is ridiculous. And to be fair, the episode itself is goofy, it is stupid, it is everything I thought it was going to be, but the most important thing that episode is fun. It's not a standout episode of Doctor Who by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a fun, enjoyable watch. It's one that I'll never probably actively go back and watch it. It's not one that I'm just like, oh, I must watch Robots of Sherwood. But if I am going to watch it, I'm not unhappy about it. It is a really fun time. Listen is a weird one, and I don't know if I like it. It's a really weird episode, and I think it's meant to be weird, but at the same time, I kind of hate the ending. I kind of hate the fact that yet again Clara is forced into the Doctor's history, but I can take it for what it is. The parts I enjoy of it, I will continue to enjoy, but I think the stuff dealing with the Doctor's past and his origins and everything, that can just go. Time Heist is 100% underrated. I think this is an episode that nobody seems to give credit for. It has a fun concept. It has a really well-designed monster, actually. Right, it's kind of like Hyde, but Hyde was shit. This is the better version of Hyde in terms of what the monster's actually doing. Plus, it's got Keeley Hawes in it, who is a fantastic actress. It's a shame that she's in this episode and she's not in a better one, admittedly, because whilst I do like it, Time Heist is not the best episode she could have been in. And then we get to The Caretaker, which is fine. Kill the Moon, in which this outfit has been inspired from. That can fuck off. That is an atrocious episode. Mummy on the Orient Express, I think overall is a fantastic story. It's probably one of the best of the season. Flatline is better than I gave it credit for, I must say. I don't really like that it's Clara focused, and I will get to that in a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I like it for what it is. I really like some of the ideas in there. In the Forest of the Night, there is no way that script was handed in and the final shots in the edit were made and people were just like, yes, this is good enough. They must have thought, fuck, well we can't redo it now, we're gonna have to put it out. I'm sure that episode has its fans out there, but if you are a fan of In the Forest of the Night, please explain why. What is it about that episode that you find enjoyable? Because for me, the concept of like trees just suddenly appearing and then they resolve it themselves, as in the trees resolve it themselves, is fucking stupid. There's a girl in a bush, there's some weird fairy girl, there's a tiger roaming about that is presumably still out there somewhere because it's outside of the zoo, and if the trees disappear, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably on the underground somewhere. What the fuck happened with that? That's a more interesting story. There's a fucking tiger loose in the city. Capaldi can't save that one. That is a fucking terrible one. And then it comes to the series finale, which I won't go into too much detail about because I have spoken about it in a different video, which I'm trying to think what I called it. I think it was something like improving bad Doctor Who episodes or something like that. But yeah, the finale I think is started off well, but then the rest of it properly lets it down. So that's my general gist of the series and what I absolutely adore about it, which is Peter Capaldi. But what I think as well is this felt somewhat like a bit of a return to form for Moffat in some ways, in other ways not so much. But I do quite like the story arc of Missy and this other, what's it called now? I want to say the Underworld, but it's not the Underworld. The Nethersphere. Is that it? Is it the Nethersphere? Where dead people go in the finale. There, I like that plot arc. I also really like the Am I a Good Man stuff. I think the annoying thing is I love the setup, but I hate the payoff. I think the payoff is really, really bad actually, and it's not done well at all. I mean, again, like I mentioned in that Improving Doctor Who Stories video. Let us get to what I think is honestly one of the worst parts of this series, which is Clara and Danny. Now the thing is, I think I said this in a previous video, Clara as a companion in series 7 was okay. She didn't really have much about her. I didn't really know what her personality was, what her backstory was, who she was, and the reason for this is because, well, that was the point. You don't know who she is. She's this impossible girl who kept showing up in the Doctor's life. But the problem is, Moffat then didn't give her any sort of personality after that. After he resolved the, oh, well, she's the girl that ran into the Doctor's time stream. That's the most character development she has got up until this point. She was a childminder, now she's a teacher for some fucking reason, as established in the 50th. Don't know how or why that's a thing, or how that even happened. And I will say this, at least Moffat tried to give her something. He tried to give her some sort of character development throughout this entire series, which would come in the form of her relationship with Danny Pink. However, the problem is we don't fucking see that relationship enough for me to care about either of them. Danny Pink is a character who I'm pretty sure does not have that much screen time. I don't buy their relationship. I don't believe their relationship because we don't really see it. He first appears in Into the Dalek and they have a few little flirtatious lines and I think they agree to go on a date or something like that. Then the next time you see him is in Listen, but in that story you see his younger self more, and you also see this Orson Pink guy. Who the fuck is that? Let's be real. We've seen them go on one date that went bad and then she quickly went back to him. So in The Caretaker, when she says, I love you, or I love him, I'm like, how? No, you don't. I mean, listen, love works in mysterious ways. You can, you know, fall in love with someone at the very first time of seeing them, but in a TV show, you need a little bit more than that. You can't just explain it away with, oh, well, it was love at first sight, because I'm gonna go, well, that's fucking bollocks. And the thing is, Danny Pink is a wooden plank. I don't rate the actor. What's his name? Samuel Anderson, I think his name is. I don't really think that either of them had good chemistry, so mix all that in with barely any fucking screen time together, and we end up with a clusterfuck of unbelievable, frustrating moments for the character of Clara because she's acting so irrational about a character that she seemingly is in love with, but you don't feel that love. It feels forced. For example, that scene in Dark Water where she's like, oh, I'm gonna destroy the TARDIS keys and like I'm gonna throw them into this volcano if you don't go back and save Danny Pink. Like, I don't think Clara cares enough about Danny Pink for her to warrant doing that. I don't feel that much passion from her towards Danny Pink for me to go, yep, I can understand why she feels that way. Take the example of Rose and Mickey or Amy and Rory. By the time that we meet these characters, it's already established that they're in a relationship. You can feel the chemistry there. You can feel the connection between these two characters. And yes, whilst there are moments of tension and get frustrated with one another, you feel that they've already been a part of each other's lives. But with this relationship, you don't see it unfold properly. Danny Pink is not established before this series, so it just comes off as flat. And the whole thing of love is a promise and he will never hurt her when he's a Cyberman and stuff, I'm just like, I don't believe that either. And I think that's the main problem with series 8 for me. It is Clara and Danny Pink. Like, they really wreck this series for me because there is potentially a really great story to be told with these two characters. But I feel like Moffat rushed it. He didn't show us enough of it. And me as a viewer, I don't fucking care about either of them. By the time series 8 wraps up, I still think that Clara is this more or less blank slate of a character. I think she's okay in certain episodes. I think she has her moments, but overall, she comes across as more obnoxious and overbearing than she did in Series 7, particularly when it comes to a relationship that is half-arsed. I think for every great thing Series 8 does, it really irritates me that we have to bring it back to Clara in some way, shape or form. So take for example Kill the Moon, where the Doctor's just like, yeah, well, I'm off, you can deal with this yourself. Admittedly, bit of a dick move. And then by the end of it, Clara's just like, nah, fuck you, like, I'm off. And then there's this sort of will they, won't they thing that weakens Mummy on the Orient Express, and it's like, oh, well, should I still travel with you? And like, Danny Pink doesn't want me traveling with you, and blah, blah, blah. And it adds this unnecessary drama that isn't needed. If anything, why don't you show the relationship as a secret to the Doctor throughout the entire series? And then by the time it's too late, then the Doctor's just sort of like, oh, you actually did really care about this guy. And then we as the audience could have known that as well. But instead of dragging this weird love triangle into it, it just really wrecks the series in places. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said before, like Flatline as an episode is really fun, but some of the bullshit in that episode weighs it down. So I think for me on the whole, Series 8 is a strong series, or at least a stronger series than what I initially gave it credit for, because I do think that the enjoyable aspects of this series are very, very enjoyable. Peter Capaldi is a massive breath of fresh air that I think Doctor Who really needed. I think there are a lot of underrated stories within Series 8, but the problem is you've got this awful, awful relationship and two lackluster characters at the forefront that properly bring this series down in places that it really didn't need bringing down. Plus there's also In the Forest of the Night, which is one of the worst Doctor Who episodes I think that has ever existed. Like, I'm happy to say that In the Forest of the Night is probably top 10 worst of all Doctor Who. This series is what it is, and I would say Series 8, I'm gonna say a low 7 out of 10. It's not amazing, it's not got any truly fantastic episodes, I don't think. It's just got some very, very great ones mixed in with some bullshit. In the comments below though guys, let me know what you think of Doctor Who Series 8. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Whatever it is, let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description as always, so if you would follow me on any of those things, I would absolutely love you forever. But until next time guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.